If you are going to consider taking your business online, then video conferencing software is probably one of the main things that you will be thinking about. Whether that is to record videos so that you can create content and things like that, or whether it's just to meet with your clients online rather than meeting them face to face, or at least giving people that option. So in this video, I want to talk to you about the kind of main options. We have Zoom. I'm also going to talk to you about Microsoft Teams, Google Meet, and another one is going to get a bit of an honorary mention. And the reason it's going to do that is because it's less known, but it is specifically created for the kind of therapy world. So it gives you some different functionality. Okay, more about that one at the end. So the first one, let's deal with the main three. The first one is Zoom. Zoom, or sort of exploded through 2020 because it was an easy system to use and at a reasonable price. So kind of the global pandemic, a lot of people wanted to meet with their friends and family online. They wanted to have a simple solution that could do that, and Zoom was already there, available, and a really good option. I think before that, the options really were these kind of bigger systems that businesses would use, such as, they're more like webinar software like GoToMeeting or kind of Cisco products, and they were more geared to a business environment or a corporate webinar and those sorts of things. I think what Zoom did was bring a video conferencing option into the world of every man, every person in an affordable way. So I think then it's now up to something like 200 million users a day. So in terms of usability, it's very easy to use. And I think as well, it's the one that people are now very comfortable with. People know Zoom, and more and more people these days, when you say, oh, I'm using Zoom, they understand what to do and how to do it. All of the solutions that I'm going to share with you do have screen sharing and file sharing options, although Zoom not so much, but you can do it. So they're all there for you in terms of all of the options. I think what differs in terms of the options is sort of why you're using it and who you're using it for. So Zoom is a really good option in terms of functionality, usability, and the fact that it's just become so known that your clients are probably going to know how to use it. You connect using a link. When you do connect through that link, it asks you to download the software. However, with Zoom, you do not have to download the software. So the meeting ID that you get in the link, you can go to Zoom's website and join a meeting via that ID, and you don't need to download any technology. So that's a really nice option with Zoom. At the beginning of 2020 and lockdowns and things like that, it did become apparent that Zoom had some security issues. They very quickly launched some new versions of Zoom with things like meeting rooms enabled and passwords enabled, and updated their encryption software as well. So I do think that they are getting better at that, and now it is not the same as what it was at the beginning of 2020. In terms of Microsoft Teams, I think that one is more up and coming now, especially because Microsoft Teams is linked to Office 365. So if you have a team, an existing team already, then using Teams is already part of that package, which works quite well because it means that then you don't have to pay anything more. You already have that. And it's really good in terms of file sharing from your Office 365 account, and it all kind of ties in together. So it's a nice one for that. The one thing about Teams that I find is it's not as intuitive in terms of the functionality. You almost have to learn a little bit more in terms of how it works, what you click, and what you do on Teams. And it's a little bit harder to invite guests onto Teams. It's really easy if you're already an existing team. And we're only talking a couple of clicks. We're not talking, you know, really difficult, but a few more steps in order to invite an external guest. So I think for helping professions in therapy world, if you are wanting something to connect with clients, you could already do that with Teams if you've got an Office 365, but you're going to have to do a few more steps in order to invite your outside clients into that meeting. The next one is Google Meets, and Google Meets is a little bit, I think it's newer, or at least they've kind of upped their game since the whole 2020, everyone moving online thing. They have created Google Meets as part of G Suite, and I think it's only $5 or $6 a month or something like that. So it is a cheaper option to Zoom. The other thing about G Suite is because it's Google, they integrate with Google Calendar really well and the other kind of features of Google really well. And they have a much better security option. So it does not necessarily mean that Zoom is not good at security, but Google is higher. So if that's something that is a concern for you or a consideration for you, then Google Meets might be a different option or a better option for you. Honourable mention. So the one that I want to also mention is something called Doxy.me, DOXY.me. And it's a lot smaller. It's not sort of as globally known as Zoom or Teams or Meets or whatever. But it was set up particularly for therapists. So the experience that you get is more like a clinic experience. So for instance, one of the biggest differences is their waiting room. You can call people one by one, where in the other systems, the people in the waiting room are the people who are invited to that particular session. Where in Doxy, you can have a number of people in the waiting room and then almost call them in one by one. So if somebody's early, for example, they can still come in and wait in the waiting room, which is quite nice. So I do think that that one is well worth your consideration as well. So in terms of my personal opinion, what do I use? What would I recommend? I personally am going to continue using Zoom. The reason for that is because I've now used it for quite a while. I know how it works. I'm really comfortable with its functionality and it gives me everything that I need. In terms of file sharing, you can only do that by chat on Zoom, but that's fine for me. I'm happy with that. I don't want to, at this stage, go off and start learning another or a new piece of technology when the one that I've got does everything that I need. There's also a thing about if you pay for Zoom, then you can have up to 100 participants, where some of the others have the Teams and the Meets both have a higher number. So it might get to a point where I do decide that it's worth to change. If I start doing webinars that are more than 100 people, it might be financially better for me to move to something like Google Meets rather than Zoom. So that might then make me change my mind. I think if I was starting off from scratch, I would have a look at Google Meet and perhaps go with that option just because it gives you the same functionality, but it is cheaper. So I think if I was starting off from fresh and I didn't know, I'd certainly check that out as well. And I do like Doxy.me, and I do think that if that kind of clinical experience is important to you, then that might sway you towards that. I'm not here to give you a definitive answer. It is completely up to you and what you feel is right for your business. But I just thought it'd be really useful to go through the various different options so that you can make an educated choice. I hope that that's helped and you found that useful. And I will see you in the next AMA Ask Me Anything video.